Anna Carter dragged her worn-out suitcase through JFK Airport, exhaustion weighing down every step. She had spent the entire previous night working overtime at the cafe where she had a part-time job, then rushed home to pack her belongings, staying up all night to make sure she wouldn't miss her early morning flight. This trip to Los Angeles was not a vacation. It was an opportunity, the only chance she had to change her life and her son's. She had been invited to interview for an executive assistant position at Reynolds Corporation ***, one of the biggest media conglomerates on the West Coast. If she landed the job, she could finally leave her cramped Brooklyn apartment and give Liam the life he deserved. But flying in economy class made the journey far from comfortable. Anna sighed as she found her seat, smack in the middle, wedged between two strangers, with barely any legroom. She bit her lip, trying not to let her disappointment show. It was too late to change anything now. She stowed her carry-on in the overhead compartment, exhaled deeply, and settled into her seat. To her left sat an elderly woman, pleasantly absorbed in a gardening magazine. But the man to her right immediately caught her attention. He was tall, well-dressed in an expensive button-down shirt, a luxury watch glinting on his wrist. He was scrolling through his phone, his elbow resting lightly on the armrest, seemingly unaware of Anna's presence. One glance at him, and she could tell he belonged to a different world than hers. A world of high-end hotels, important business meetings, and sleek, expensive cars. She swallowed hard, reminding herself to focus. No matter who he was, the only thing that mattered right now was staying composed throughout the flight and mentally preparing for her interview. But her body betrayed her intentions. Too many sleepless nights, too much stress, too much pressure had left her utterly drained. She tried to stay awake, rereading her interview notes on her phone, but the words blurred together. Her eyelids grew heavy, and her head started to tilt to one side. Before she realized it, she had drifted into sleep, and her head had gently come to rest on the shoulder of the stranger beside her. Anna was completely unaware of what was happening. She didn't know that just minutes after she leaned against him, the man stiffened slightly and glanced down. A typical person might have shifted away or gently nudged her awake, but he didn't. Instead, he remained still, his expression showing a flicker of surprise but no annoyance. He could feel her steady breathing, the soft strands of her hair brushing against his collar. He studied her face, subtle exhaustion lined her eyes. Her complexion was pale, yet held a quiet grace he couldn't quite explain. She must have had a long day. A flight attendant passing by glanced at the scene with mild curiosity. The man simply gave a slight shrug, as if to signal that everything was fine. Then he returned to his phone, continuing his work. But at some point, almost subconsciously, he adjusted his position slightly to let her rest more comfortably without disturbing her sleep. He didn't know why he did it. Maybe it was the peacefulness on her face. Maybe he didn't want to wake her. Or maybe this wasn't just any ordinary flight. An hour later, Anna stirred awake. She blinked a few times, trying to make sense of her surroundings. She realized her head was resting against something warm. And then, she looked up. Her eyes met the deep, unreadable gaze of the man beside her. Her heart stopped for a moment. Anna immediately sat up, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. "Oh my God, I am so sorry." The man did not say anything for a few seconds. A faint smile appeared on his lips. "It is all right," he said in a deep, calm voice. "You looked like you needed the rest." Anna felt her throat go dry. She quickly straightened her hair and adjusted her clothes, trying to salvage the situation. "I really did not mean to," she stammered. "I just had a long night." The man nodded, seemingly unbothered. "I figured as much." She avoided looking at him for too long, but when she glanced down at his wrist, she noticed the gleaming Rolex watch under the cabin lights. She swallowed hard. This man was clearly someone important. She wondered who he was. But before she could ask, a voice came over the intercom. "We are beginning our descent into Los Angeles. Please fasten your seatbelts." Anna quickly followed the instructions, trying to shake off the lingering embarrassment. She just hoped that once the plane landed, she could leave quickly and put this awkward moment behind her. But she had no idea that this was only the beginning. The man she had just accidentally fallen asleep on was about to change her life forever. The plane landed at Los Angeles International Airport under a breathtaking golden sunset. But Anna paid no attention to the beautiful scenery outside the window. She just wanted to get off the plane and escape the embarrassment of having fallen asleep on a complete stranger. She stole a glance to her side. The man was still seated, completely at ease, as if nothing unusual had happened. But what surprised her even more was the way he looked at her, not annoyed, not irritated, but with a hint of amusement. She swallowed hard, feeling her face flush again. "I really am sorry," she repeated, for the third time since waking up. The man smiled, a knowing and unreadable smile. "I already told you it is fine. You clearly needed the sleep." Anna nodded awkwardly. "Yeah, I guess so." She quickly turned away, pulling her bag onto her lap and trying to regain her composure. Just a few more minutes, and she would be out of here, in a cab to her hotel, preparing for the most important interview of her life. But then, the man's next question made her pause. "Are you in Los Angeles for work?" Anna looked at him, his sharp blue eyes still fixed on her, as if he were studying her reactions. She did not understand why he cared, but she answered anyway. "Yes, I have an important interview." The man nodded but did not say anything else. There was a brief silence between them, but it was not awkward. It was almost like he was analyzing something, weighing his thoughts. "And you?" she asked, partly out of curiosity, partly to shift the focus away from herself. The man leaned back in his seat, his expression unreadable. A bit of work, a bit of leisure. His vague answer only made her more curious. But before she could ask anything else, the flight attendant announced that all passengers needed to prepare for deplaning. She let out a quiet breath, reassuring herself that she would never see this mysterious stranger again. But she had no idea this was just the beginning. Anna pulled her suitcase down the jet bridge, relieved to finally step into the vast airport terminal. She quickly made her way toward baggage claim, silently hoping she would not run into that man again. But fate seemed to have other plans. As she waited for her luggage, a familiar voice called out from behind her. "Anna Carter." She spun around, eyes widening. The man stood right there, hands casually tucked into his pockets, a confident smirk playing on his lips. She froze. "How do you know my name?" He tilted his head slightly, as if he found her question amusing. "I might have a few mind-reading skills." Anna narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" The man took a slow step closer. "James Reynolds." Anna blinked. The name sounded oddly familiar, and then in an instant, everything clicked. James Reynolds, Chief Executive Officer of Reynolds Corporation. The man she had unknowingly slept on during the flight was the same man who would be interviewing her tomorrow. She felt the world tilt on its axis. For a few seconds, Anna did not know what to say. She had spent the entire flight sleeping on the shoulder of the CEO of the company she was trying to get a job at. That could not be possible. James seemed to read her thoughts, his smile widening slightly. "I guess you did not expect this." Anna took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. "No, I definitely did not expect this." James nodded, as if he had already predicted her reaction. "You do not need to worry. I am not the kind of person who judges candidates based on an accidental nap on a plane." Anna stared at him, trying to figure out whether he was serious or just teasing her. "So the interview tomorrow is still happening as planned?" she asked, her voice slightly hesitant. James shrugged. "Of course. But I must admit, I already have quite an interesting impression of you." Anna felt her heartbeat quicken. Was that a good thing? Or had she just ruined her one chance at this job? She was not sure. But one thing was certain. This meeting was not just a coincidence, and it could completely change her future. Anna felt her mind spinning. She had never imagined she would find herself in such an unusual situation. An hour ago, she had been just a single mother struggling to land a better job. Now, she was standing face to face with James Reynolds, the CEO of the very company she was applying to work for, and the same man whose shoulder she had unknowingly slept on during the entire flight. She still did not fully understand what was happening. James did not seem annoyed or awkward. On the contrary, he looked amused. "So what am I supposed to do now?" Anna asked, trying to keep her voice steady. James smirked. "You will still have your interview tomorrow. But I have an interesting proposition." Anna narrowed her eyes. "What proposition?" James stepped closer, his blue eyes glinting with intrigue. "Think of this as an unexpected test. I want to see how you handle unpredictable situations. Have dinner with me right now." She nearly choked. "Dinner?" James shrugged. "Consider it an informal interview. If you can handle this situation without panicking, Maybe you will do well in my company." Anna opened her mouth to decline instinctively. She did not have time for these games. But then, she remembered why she had come here, to get a better job, to change her life for herself and her son. She could not pass up this opportunity. "All right," she said, taking a deep breath. "But I choose the restaurant." James raised an eyebrow, as if he had not expected her to agree so easily. "That is fair. I will be waiting to see what you pick." 20 minutes later, Anna and James were seated in a small eatery in downtown Los Angeles. Instead of an upscale restaurant with candlelit tables, Anna had chosen a casual taco stand she had heard served the best street food in the city. James did not say anything as they walked in. He simply observed, as if evaluating every decision she made. "So why did you choose this place?" James asked after they had placed their orders. Anna took a sip of water, looking straight into his eyes. "Because I want to see if you genuinely want to know about me, or if this is just a psychological test." James let out a deep chuckle, a hint of surprise in his voice. "You are sharper than I thought." "And what about you?" Anna asked. "Are you really the kind of person who invites candidates to dinner before an interview? Or is this an exception?" James leaned back in his chair, stirring the ice in his glass. "You are an exception." Anna's heart beat a little faster, but she quickly steadied herself. She did not want personal emotions to interfere with her goal. "Tell me about yourself," Anna. James continued. "I read your resume. You worked as an administrative assistant, but before that you studied marketing. Why did you stop?" Anna clenched her hands under the table. That question brought back a part of her life she preferred not to revisit. "Because I have a son," she answered honestly. "I had to work to take care of Liam, so school had to wait." James nodded, as if he had already suspected the answer. "So why do you want this job?" Anna met his gaze, her expression determined. "Because I want a better life for my son. I want to prove that I can do more than just get by. And I believe I am capable of doing this job well." James was silent for a few seconds, then smiled. "That is a good answer." Dinner ended, and James drove Anna back to her hotel. As the car pulled up in front of the entrance, Anna reached for the door handle, preparing to leave when James spoke. "Tomorrow, come to the interview as planned. But I want you to remember something." Anna turned back, waiting. "Sometimes, the biggest opportunities come from the moments we least expect," James said, his eyes holding that same enigmatic look. "And you, Anna Carter, may have just stepped into one of those moments." Anna did not know how to respond, because she felt the exact same way. She nodded, then stepped out of the car. Tomorrow would be an important day, but tonight she realized something. Maybe this flight was not just a coincidence. Maybe it was the beginning of something much bigger. Anna woke up the next morning feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. Today's interview could be the most important turning point in her life. But what unsettled her the most was not just the job, it was James Reynolds. She still could not believe that the man she had accidentally fallen asleep on was the CEO of the company she was trying to work for. And last night's unexpected dinner with him had made things even more unpredictable. She had no idea what James truly thought of her. Was he just curious, or was there a deeper reason behind his actions? Taking a deep breath, she looked at herself in the mirror. Today was not the day to dwell on those thoughts. Today was the day to prove herself. Anna arrived at Reynolds Corporation, a sleek high-rise with glass walls reflecting the bright morning sun. She stepped into the elevator, her palms slightly sweaty. As she entered the waiting room, she realized she was not the only candidate. At least 5 other applicants were there, all dressed professionally and radiating confidence. She swallowed hard. Could she really compete with them? Before she could overthink it, an assistant stepped out and called her name. "Anna Carter, it is your turn." She stood up, adjusted her blazer, and walked into the conference room. Inside, James Reynolds sat at the head of the table, alongside 2 other executives. But his eyes immediately locked onto her. "Miss Carter," James said, his voice calm yet slightly amused. "Welcome to your interview." Anna took a deep breath. She sat down, ready to face the challenge ahead. The interview began with standard questions. The executives asked about her work experience, skills, and why she wanted to work at Reynolds Corporation. Anna answered professionally, trying to remain calm even though she could feel James's eyes watching her every move. Then, James asked a question that caught her off guard. "How would you handle a completely unexpected situation?" Anna blinked. Could you clarify? James leaned back in his chair, a slight smile forming. Suppose you found yourself in a scenario you were not prepared for. For example, unexpectedly being put into an informal interview the moment you stepped off a plane. Her heartbeat quickened. He was referring to last night's dinner. The other executives seemed unaware of what James was implying, but Anna understood perfectly. She pressed her lips together for a moment, then responded confidently. I believe the most important thing is to stay calm and assess the situation. We do not always have time to prepare, but if we are adaptable and resourceful, we can turn an unexpected challenge into an opportunity. James studied her for a moment before nodding. That is a great answer. One of the other executives interjected. If given the chance to prove yourself, what would you do? Anna did not hesitate. If given the opportunity, I would give it my all. I would not let anything hold me back, whether it is unexpected challenges or pressure from those around me. The room was silent for a second before one of the executives nodded in approval. James also smiled, but this time it was not a teasing smile. It was one of recognition. Anna left the interview room with mixed emotions. She was not sure if she had done well or not. But as she was about to leave the building, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Meet me at the cafe on the ground floor. I have your results. She frowned but still made her way downstairs. When she entered the cafe, James was already sitting there, holding a cup of coffee. He looked at her and slid an envelope across the table. You got the job. Anna's eyes widened. What? James smirked. I liked the way you handled yourself. You are adaptable, resilient, and most importantly, you do not run away from challenges. She looked down at the envelope, still unable to believe it. But what about the other candidates? James shrugged. They were all qualified, but none of them stayed as composed in an unpredictable situation as you did. Anna felt her heart pounding. She had done it. She had secured the job she had dreamed of. She looked up at James, trying to decipher the true meaning behind his decision. So, is this just because I am skilled, or is there another reason? James raised an eyebrow. What do you think? Anna smiled slightly. I guess I will figure that out over time. James chuckled. Good. I like people who ask questions. Anna had come to Los Angeles hoping for a better job, but she had not expected this journey to bring her something even more valuable, a lesson in opportunity, courage, and seizing the moment. She realized that life does not always go according to plan. Sometimes, unexpected moments, like falling asleep on a stranger's shoulder during a flight, can open doors she never imagined. Most importantly, she learned that success does not come only from preparation but also from the ability to adapt to unforeseen circumstances. Have you ever encountered an unexpected situation that led to a great opportunity? How would you handle it if you were in Anna's position? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, do not forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with more exciting stories.